I'm Anil Kumar sharing with you few multiple choice questions based on equations and an open question. These questions will help students taking competitive exams like SAT. The very first question here is, if x plus 1 over x equals to 10, then find values of x cubed plus 1 over x cubed. I'll explain you the best way to solve these questions and we'll not really rush. But once you understand the method, you could actually do such questions in no time. So let's begin. We want to find x cubed plus 1 over x cubed. We are given x plus 1 over x. So if I expand x plus 1 over x as a power of 3, what I could do is x plus 1 over x equals to 10. So I could cube both sides. Do you see that part? So we could cube both sides. Now, some of you may know what is a plus b whole cube, but it is good to know. So, a plus b whole cube is equal to a cube plus 3a square b plus 3ab square plus b cube. Correct? That's a standard formula which you should know. Some of you can take help of Pascal's triangle. Correct? So, this is for not for just cubes. The idea here is to show you a method which could work for even higher powers, right? So if you continue this pattern, which is called Pascal's triangle, you get the coefficients. And some of you can also use binomial theorem. Now, depending on these powers, they could be like power of 10. In that case, what? Binomial theorem, right? So different ways to solve different related problems. So let's be open for all kinds of questions. That's the whole idea, right? So since I took a very simple example, which is good for, let's say, SAT, or we could work out. If it is IIT, then it could be binomial theorem or Pascal's triangle. Okay, so let's expand this. Using the formula, we get x cubed plus 3 times x squared times 1 over x plus 3 times x times 1 over x squared plus 1 over x whole cube equals to 1000. Now we get the terms x cubed plus, here we can take 3 common, and what do you get inside? X squared over x is the term x plus x times 1 over x squared is 1 over x. Do you see that beauty? And what we have here is 1 over x cubed, and everything is equal to 1000. Now we know what this is. That means x cubed plus 1 over x cubed, and this term here is plus 3 times, we'll substitute the value 10, correct? So we are given this value as 10. Do you see that part? So we'll substitute this 10 for x plus 1 over x equals to 1000. What do we need? We need x cubed plus 1 over x cubed. Let me use this space. So this implies that x cubed plus 1 over x cubed is equal to 1000 minus 3 times 10, which is 30, which is of course 970. So option B is the perfect option. So you see how we could use the knowledge gained from this example in different types of test papers. So it is good for all high school students, and it applies to all kinds of test papers, whether it is SAT, CAT, MCAT, whatever. Okay. Now here is another question, which is of the same level. Now here we have to find solution of a square root function, right? So working with equations, I've taken examples for different types of equations. The idea is to give you the knowledge of solving such questions. Perfect. Now, in such cases, we can have extraneous roots. So remember that part. Let me write down. That really means that whatever you calculate, all may not be correct. So what you need to do here is check your answer. So that is a critical thing to be done in these questions. I know in multiple choice you are always pressed with time, so you may rush to wrong solution. Don't do that. Perfect. Now I also recommend that when you see a question, you should also see what could be possible answers. Now x minus 1 is within square root. That really means that x minus 1 should be greater than or equal to 0, or x has to be greater than or equal to 0. All possible solutions are greater than 0. Greater than or equal to 1. All possible solutions are greater than or equal to 1, and therefore that's not an issue. Now major problem could be looking into the solutions that we might have extraneous roots, correct? So that's the key. Now what is the first step? First step here is to square both sides. That is what you do with any square root equation. Perfect. This is your first step. So when you square, you get x minus 1 equals to x minus 7 whole square. We'll of course square this and expand. So we get this as x squared minus 2ab, which is 14x. Square of 7 is 49. Bring them together. So we get x squared minus 14x plus 49. Take away x and add 1 equals to 0. That gives you x squared minus 15x plus 50 equals to 0. Now you could use product and sum to factor. So you have to be good at factoring at this level, right? So we are not really teaching you factoring techniques. You can follow some of the links to learn factoring. 5 times 10 works for us. So x minus 5 times x minus 10 is perfect. So we get two solutions. One is x equals to 5 and the other one is x equals to 10. Now we do have this as option, but is it the right option? Important. So what you need to do here, check. Don't be in a rush. Now you could really lose a lot of marks if you are in a rush. Let's see what happens. And let's also understand why this error could happen, right? Why do we get extraneous roots? So let's check 5. If I substitute 5 here, in that case I get square root of 5 minus 1. On this side, let me not write equal to. What we get here is 5 minus 7. Well, clearly 5 minus 7 is negative 2. And this is square root of 4, which is, we know 2, right? So 2 is not equal to negative 2. Do you understand? So it doesn't work, correct? So this is not correct. So this is not correct. Do you see that part? Why was this error? When we square both sides, we make negative things as positive. That's the reason. So squaring may lead to errors. The whole exercise here is to understand, not to rush. But once you understand all this, you can easily solve these questions without any problem in the required time. Always, a paper setter is giving you enough time to answer these questions. Remember that part. And many students are getting it right. The question is, you should also get it right. Perfect. Now let's try 10. Now if x is equals to 10, then what do we get? We get square root of 10 minus 1, and this is equal to square root of 9, which is 3. On the right side, we have 10 minus 7, which is equals to 3. And what we see is it works, right? So these two things are correct. And therefore, the only option we have is x equals to 10. So option B is the correct option. Do you get that part? The whole idea is to go slow on this, is to make you understand that please do not make this mistake. Check your answer, right? Now when I write x should be greater than 1, I should have also looked into the right side. So from the right side, if you see, we should also think about x minus 7 should be always greater than or equal to 0. And that gives you that x has to be greater than 7. So writing domain is not only for the left side, you should also look into the other side. We need to have something positive as square root output, right? So if you could have done that, then this check was not required. You know that this is the right answer. So that is save time. So save time. This is your tip. Do you get it? So that is how you could utilize my videos to get answers in shorter time. I hope that works. Now let's take up an excellent question after this. Ax minus 7 times bx plus 5 equals to 6x squared plus cx minus 35. If a minus b equals to minus 1, what are possible values of c? Okay, so let us expand this expression and see what we get. Ax minus 7 times bx plus 5. So if you expand, you get a times b times x squared, and then you get 5 times ax, and then you get minus 7 times bx minus 35. And this could be written as a times b x squared plus x is common, so we get 5a minus 7b times x, and here we get minus 35, correct? So that becomes the equation. Now we are already given that all this is equal to 6x squared plus cx minus 35. Now from here, what do you see? Now if you compare, you could get one relation, which is, let me write it bold, which is 8b is 6. A times b equals to 6. That is one thing you get, right? Now we are also given that a minus b is minus 1. So we are given a minus b equals to minus 1. So what we could do here is we can find possible values. Now there are two equations, correct? Two unknowns. So we could find both a and b. Once we find a and b, we could find what c is, correct? Here you can see that c is equals to 5a minus 7b. So the whole idea is to find a and b, correct? So let's do, let's resolve and find equation in one variable. So I could write b here, b is equal to, taking it to this side, a plus 1, correct? b is equals to a plus 1. Now if I substitute this in our equation, which is a times b equals to 6, I get a times a plus 1 equals to 6. Now that's a quadratic equation, correct? So what we did here was we substituted this value into what we found. Do you see that connection? So this is a very interesting question, good for all students taking admission for good universities. So this is a quadratic equation. Let's solve. So what do we get? We get b equals to a plus 1. We get a squared plus a minus 6 equals to 0. So that means 3 times 2. So a plus 3 times a minus 2 equals to 0. So that gives you a equals to minus 3 or a equals to 2. So there are two possible solutions, right? One with a equals to minus 3, the other one a equals to 2. So for each, let's find what b is. So b equals to, if I choose this value, in that case it is minus 3 plus 1 and it is equal to minus 2. And if I use the other value, which is, let me use a different ink. If I use the other value, which is a equals to 2, I get b equals to 2 plus 1, which is 3. So we get two values. And so we expect two different values for c. Do you see that? So we expect two different values of c. One set becoming a equals to minus 3, b equals to minus 2, and the other as, let me further divide this. Okay, and the other being that a is 2 and b is 3. Okay, so let's calculate. Here is what c is. Perfect. So For the first one, C is equals to 5 times minus 3 minus 7 times minus 2. So that gives you minus 15 plus 14, and that is minus 1. This is one value. For the second one, C is equals to 2 times 5, 5 times 2 minus 7 times 3. And that gives you 10 minus 21, which is minus 11. So we get our answer, and that is C is equal to minus 1 or minus 11, right? So we could write it in set form as this. So these are two possible values of C. So I hope that makes sense. Now feel free to write your comments and share your views. You can share any questions you are having difficulty with. We'll try to figure out how to solve it in the most efficient way. I hope you enjoyed this learning process. If you really like my videos, you can always subscribe to them. Thank you and all the best.